Chassidus, it's explained, what does it mean, a yachid? Simple meaning is, the tzibur, the community, tshuva works all the time. For a yachid, for one individual, tshuva doesn't work all the time. So Chassidus explains, what's the yachid? The yachid is that each one of us has a yachid inside of us. The yachid is the inner part of our soul. There's 5 parts of the soul, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yichida. And the yachid, the time when the yachid, the inside of us, the spark, is awakened, is during Aseret Yemei Tshuva. The story was that in the year 5569, do the math how long ago that was, the Tzemach Tzedek told the story actually a few years after, about the year 5569. Tzemach Tzedek was in the year 5603. Tzemach Tzedek told the story on Rosh Hashanah. His minhag was never to speak. On Rosh Hashanah, Gornish ken vart giret. On Rosh Hashanah, he would constantly make sure to say Tehillim, and there was no talking, not even Divrei Torah, not Sicha B'Teila, no talking anything. And he broke his silence, and he said, I want to share with you a story that happened in the year 5569 by my grandfather, the Baal Tanya. The story was, he says, the Baal Tanya never used to speak on Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, he was always involved in making sure he was saying Tehillim and no Dvarim B'Teilim and not even Divrei Torah. Because Rosh Hashanah is the Zman when an Eved has no time. And he's all about the Melech he's focused on. And nonetheless, he broke his silence, he says, and he called us in. He called in myself, as Tzemach Tzedek says, and his son-in-law who was to become the Rebbe after him. Called us both into the room on the night of Rosh Hashanah. And he told us as follows. He said, all year round, I've helped a lot of people. He says, this guy came to me and I helped him out. I did Mayan Yisroel, I helped him out, that he was able to get a parnasa. And this guy, I helped him in this Avodas Hashem. And he says, I help people primarily in parnasa ruchnis. I helped them in spiritual parnasa, whenever I could. He says, and now, and he listed exactly how many people he's helped. He listed detail for detail. He says, over an extended period of time, he listed exactly the Baal Tanya's good deeds of the year. And then he says, and now it's time to ask God for payback. Because Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Jews are allowed to ask Hashem, here's what I want as a result of that. He says, what do I want from the Eibishter? So he says, I daven for people in Parnasa Ruchnis, I help them out. I want Hashem, as payback to me, to please give Yankel needs a Parnasa Gashmis, Shmerel needs a Shidduch, and this guy needs that. And he started listing all the things people need Begashmis. And he says, and the Rebbeinu Shalom owes it to us, owes it to me, because of all the avodah that I've done. And you two, he says to the Tzemach Tzedek and the David Ber, he says, you two are my Eidim, because the din is, Al Pishnayim Eidim Yakum Davar, you are my Eidim, you're my witnesses, and you're going to make sure this comes about. Tzemach Tzedek told his Chassidim, he says, it's been quite a few years since my grandfather told it over, so I also want to break the silence of Rosh Hashanah, and I want to make sure to daven, to ask Hashem that I want payback also for all the things that I did over the course of the past year. In the midst of a Rosh Hashanah, when he's all in seriousness and in his avodah of the highest level of a Heiliger Rebbe, but what's he thinking about? He's thinking about that Klal Yisrael needs to have a good year. He's thinking that it's not about me, it's about the Klal, and even though my avodah might be shter, not be exactly the way it's supposed to be, but the Klal, the other Yid needs to have an avodah. When we start Yom Kippur, what's the opening line of Yom Kippur? One of the opening lines. We say, V'nislach l'chol adas b'nei Yisrael ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. And all the Yidden should be forgiven. Why? Ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. Do you think you understand? For those who really get what Shabbos is and Kashrus is, you really understand what Shabbos is. You really understand that you're chayav skila if you do Hilchos Bayir. You really appreciate what that means. You don't appreciate what it is. Even those of us who keep everything. So we start off the Yom Tov of Yom Kippur and we say, first of all, alle sollen wissen, as when Yislach l'chol adas b'nei Yisrael ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. The Eibishter has to give a good year to everybody because everyone's a shoygeg. Nobody means it. Nobody really wants to go against God. We just don't know what we're doing. We're intoxicated. We don't understand the ramifications of what we are doing. And so because we do that, that's why we end up sinning chas v'shalom. Comes Aseret Yemei Tshuva, and the Nitzutz is awakened. The Yachid is awakened. The Yachid inside of us, one part of us, wants to do the right thing. And all we want to do during this time is say, Eibishter, listen, really I love the other Yid, and I love you. Inside. Elamai, most of the year I get lost in stuff that goes on around me. I forget about it. And now the one spark is awakened. The Kir of Amor Elanitzat, so I'm going to focus on that. What we need to do during this 10-day duration of time is focus on that Yachid Shebenefesh. Focus on this Yechida inside of us. Focus on the beauty that's inside of us, on Avas Yisroel between each other and with somebody else and with the Eibishter. To be able to reveal the inner essence of what it is. That's why Tshuva, the Maggid of Mezrich once said, he said, Shuva Yisroel ad Hashem Elokecha. So he translated like this. It's a pasuk in Shabbos Shuva. We say, Shuva Yisroel ad Hashem Elokecha, the Navi says. So he says, you think it means, return Yisroel to Hashem Elokecha, to Hashem your God. He says, no. Shuva Yisroel. Do Shuva Yisroel, add up to the point, how much Shuva should you do? Ad Hashem Elokecha. Until Hashem becomes your God. You see, you have a Yechida inside you. You have a soul inside you that really loves God and wants it. The question is, what's tutzach in real life? Is that how we really live our lives? Shuva Yisroel, do tshuva until you're able to reveal Hashem Elokecha, until Hashem Elokecha becomes your reality, until the Eibishter becomes what you are, and Hashem becomes Elokecha. And that's the quest. It's not about Aveirus, it's not about thinking about all the sins we've done. It's simply about, you have God inside you. He's right there, inside each and every one of us. And so we connect to each other, we reveal the spark inside of us, and we connect to the Eibishter thereby. And that's the Avodah of Yom Kippur. The Avodah of Yom Kippur is to reveal the inner Yochid. The Shuva Yisroel, do tshuva, return, until you realize that you're really just a beautiful little child of Hashem, and innocent and naive and pristine, and all you want to do is Ratzon Hashem. Elamayu mi me'akev sa'or shebe'isa. You get rid of the Yetzer Hara, so you focus on the Eibishter, you focus on your relationship with the Eibishter, and when you do, automatically, the negativity falls away. And so we gather together in this time, every year, B'Aseret Yemei Tshuva, to focus on this Nakuda, and to focus on a little bit of what our lives really are, what we really should be doing in our lives, what our souls are, the connection with the Eibishter. On that note, it gives me great pleasure to invite Mordechai Werdiger to say a few words on the topic, and Be'ezer Hashem, Pnimis and Hashem will be awakened. Shekayach.
Good. I have nothing to say. You said it all. You left nothing for me. I really don't know how I was coerced into this situation. Our friend Avrami Greenbaum, who says he claims to come to shiur here once in a while. Is that true? He got stuck in Uman. His plane was delayed until Wednesday, and he therefore had to take a trip to Eretz Yisrael, Bimkoin. One thing I see, Baruch Hashem, that the words of the Novi, Hina yom min boim num Hashem, bishlachti rov bo'eretz, lo rov lalechem, v'letzam l'mayim, kim nishmoyas divrei Hashem, is happening. See, Mamish, instead of going to Lamarei, people come to this Medrash as Esim Yetshuva, it's a gewaldige Zach. The Novi Amos says, Aryeh shoag mi lo yiro. When the lion roars, who doesn't tremble? Now imagine you're walking down the street and you see this big bulldog or the klovim come charging at you. You have such a tzitr, this mamish oyim v'noira. Imagine if there's a loose lion running towards you. The pachad that a person would get. Steht for him, Aryeh is Rosh Tevis Elu, Rosh Hashanah, Yom HaKippurim, and Hashanah Rabbah. These are the days when the Eibishter roars and is waiting for Klal Yisrael to return and to get close to him again. Elul starts with the words, Rosh Tevis, Yadua, Ani ledoidi, v'doidi li. I am to my doidi, which the Eibishter is called doidi, Lashon Chiba, and therefore doidi is li. When I turn to him, he turns to me. Saposh Tezach, Kamayim Ponim Uponim. Rosh Hashanah is a day that when Mamlich the Eibishter, we announce the Malchus of the Rebbeinu Shalom in the world, like we say in the Tfilis, Meloicha Kol Olam Kulu B'Chvadecha, we mispalel, Meloicha Kol Olam Kulu, Eibishter become Melech on the entire world. It should be a Hakora. Everyone should recognize that the Eibishter is who he is. V'simloich atu Hashem like Heinu Meher Levadecha Kol Maasecha. The Eibishter should be Melech. And for that reason, one of the reasons that we blow shofar, like Sadi Yugon says, is because in the olden days when they were Mamlich and Melech, today they make a ceremony in Washington, D.C. But in the alte Zeiten, they give in a ganze ceremony with trumpets and with shofars. So we blow the shofar to be ma'oyer the oilam that this is the day that when Mamlich the Eibishter, on the day of Brias Oilam, when everything returns 2.0, and we start a new world, a new life, a new year. Tkiyah shofar is also ma'orer the hearts. That's the teva of the shofar. When we hear the shofar, it awakens us. Hayitoka shofar be'ir va'am lo yichrodu. When they blow the shofar, will we not chap a tzitr? Some of us more, some of us less, depending on the cloud we have around us. But the shofar calls out to us, Uru yishenim mishenaschem, wake up, you sleepyheads, wake up from your sleep and turn back to the Eibishter. We say in the Tefillah of Rosh Hashanah, Zeh hayoim techilas ma'asecha. This is the beginning of creation. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Kutei Torah, Torah Oyer actually, that every year is a oilam for itself. Every year is a new bria, from beginning to end. In the beginning of Brias Oilam, there was one clump of 6,000 years, and then every year is ischatshus of the entire bria. And we have the ability to change ourselves. It's a new year, it's a new life, it's a new existence. On Rosh Chodesh Elul, Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemayim to ask for forgiveness for Klal Yisroel, for the Maisa Egel. And after 40 days in Shemayim, the Eibishter said, Salachti kidvarecha, I will forgive them. And he came down with the Luchas Shniyos. So Yom Kippur is actually that 40th day that we have the ability to reconnect to the new Luchos, which is a tikkun for the Chet. 40 days also symbolizes the Yitziras Havlad. The Gemara says that until 40 days, a person can still be mispalel to change from a Zocha to a Nekeva, from Nekeva to a Zocha. We learned it from Leah. When she was in her 7th pregnancy, she didn't want her sister Rachel to be less than the Bila and Zilpa. And although she was carrying a boy, she was mispalel and changed into Dinah. So the 40th day, which is actually Yom Kippur, we have the ability to change throughout Tfilis our entire life. In Chassidus, I'm sure you heard from Werdiger b'meshach the last month or so, the inyan of Hamelech Basode. What's his name? Yitzchak Biton had a song many years ago, in the field the king will be. Hamelech Basode. What does it mean, Hamelech Basode? Ordinarily, the Melech sits in a palace with guards upon guards upon guards. It's impossible to get to the Melech. It's impossible to get an appointment to the Melech. If you finally get an appointment, it'll take you months or years. But when the Melech is not in his palace, when the Melech is traveling, every person can walk over to his chariot and try to get close to him and ask him for all their needs. That's the dinyan for Melech Basode, and everyone on these days can be mispalel to the Eibishter and ask all his bakoshes. There was a famous moshel told about a Ben Melech that was moirid in his father. He rebelled against his father and ran away, took off. After a while, the father, Chatata is a Chatata, he wanted to see his child again, he wanted to know how he's doing. So he sent one of his Choshev Esorim to check out the situation. How's my son doing, the Ben Melech? The Ben Melech, unfortunately, got involved with schlechte Menschen, bad people, bad friends, and he went down and down and down. By the time this Tsar found the Ben Melech, he was all drunk and he was sitting in a bar with the Al Shikurim with torn clothing. He had nothing to wear, he was dirty, he was filthy. He walked over to him, he said, "Do you remember me?" And yes, he remembered him. And he said, "Your father, the king, has sent me to see what you need. What can I do for you?" So he said, "Tell my father that I need a coat and I need new boots." So he says to him, "What? That's what you want? Shoite! You have the ability to ask, Apostle Zach, take me back home, and you'll have everything." And these days, the Yomim HaNeiroim, the Ikar Tfilis that we should be doing, and it's all over the Tfilis, is B'nei Beischa Kevatchila. Take us back home, Rebbeinu Shalom. If we'll be back home, we'll have everything. It'll answer all our problems. Steht in Sforim Bechlal that the Tfilis of Rosh Hashanah should be only on the Malchus Shemayim. The second day is the andere V'zogam, we can Yom Espalatin of Gashmius. But the Ikar Tfilis of these days is mamish the inyonim of Malchus, to bring back the Malchus of the Eibishter. There are 365 days in the year. Has Soton is B'gematria 364. Because one day of the year, he has no koyach to be mastin. He has no koyach to be mekatrig and Klal Yisroel. And that day is Yom Kippur. That's the day when a person can be mispalel for anything and everything. It's the day of his galus, ha'oiros, ha'elyoinim, like the Shloh Kodesh says. It's the day when his gewaldige lights, mishamayim, come down to Klal Yisroel, to illuminate us, to illuminate our neshamas, to illuminate our lives. We can come to a matzav of el-ovdoi b'chol avavchem, b'chol nafshechem, with our whole heart. Be'ahava, be'yira, be'simcha, be'kedusha v'tahara. It's a day of cleansing. As the Pasuk says, Ki b'yoyim hazeh yechaper aleichem, l'taheireschem mikol chatoiseichem. This is a day when the Eibishter washes our neshamas. He washes us. It's a matana from the Eibishter that we have the zechiyah to come clean. I'm sure everyone remembers the feeling of last year Motzei Yom Kippur after a day of fasting and davening. It's like, you feel clean. You feel elevated, elated. Rab Tzaddik says, Luleidim istafine. If I wouldn't be scared to say it, I would say that the bittul hara in the entire world will happen on Yom Kippur. And who knows, it may be this year. The way things look in the world, everything is so shaky. Wer weiß? Das ist mein, ja. It's our Shalom of Bells. One year on Yom Kippur, he was breathing deeply. And the Gabba walked in and said, Rebbe, are you okay? What happened? So I said, what are you talking about? What happened? He says, Yoim HaKodosh. The entire day is ein shtik Kedusha. I'm breathing Kedusha into myself. I'm absorbing it into my being. The main avodah of Yom Kippur is to be mevaris hara, to get rid of all evil. Through cleansing our own self, we have hashpah on our surroundings. We have hashpah on the entire world. The Tzanzer Rav once said, when I was younger, I thought I'd be mesaken the entire world. I'd fix the world. When I got a little older, I realized that's not going to happen. So I figured maybe mein Stott, Tzanz, got a little bit older, he said, nah, Tzanz euch nicht. Efshe meine Chassidim. Got a little bit older, he said, halavai my family. And the older he got, he realized, he said, halavai myself. So the avodah vi misaken starts from within. There's a pasuk in Tehillim in Kapitel Nun Aleph, David HaMelech, the famous Kapitel. Nosna Novi came to him after the story of Bathsheba. Says in that Kapitel, Kerchoik Mizrach Mimarav, Hirchik Mimenes B'Shoinu. As far as Mizrach is from Ma'ariv, east and west, that's how far Hashem has removed my Averis. Like the Beis Avrom, Slonimer. He says, what's the pshat? He says, what's mashma that it's so far? This is Mizrach and that's a Ma'ariv. So that's precisely the pshat. If you're walking in a direction, and you just turn around, and you start walking in the other direction, you're already as far as from Mizrach to Ma'ariv. All it takes is a kleine drei. Turn around. We say in the Tfilis of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, three basic ingredients. With tshuva, with tefillah, with tzedakah, ma'avir nes roya ha'gezerah. Roya ha'gezerah means that even if there's a gezerah on a person, chas v'sholom, a bad gezerah, through tshuva, through tefillah and tzedakah, ma'avir nes roya ha'gezerah. There's a Gemara in Bava Metzia that says, Amar Rabbi Elazar, miyoim shenechra beis hamikdash, nin'alu sha'ar tefillah. The gates of tefillah were locked. They're closed. Hashem said, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I can't listen. V'af al pi she'sha'ar tefillah nin'alu, v'b'sha'ar demois lo nin'alu. When a Yid cries to the Eibishter always accepts his tears. It's Yadua from the Arizal. He said that a Yid that's not nisoyer to the Mois in these holy days, these Yom HaNeiroim, is a siman there's something wrong with him, something wrong with his neshama. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Everybody at a certain point, whether it's Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, it's a chapta atzip, and you start crying. And das was the Eibishter nachas from them. The charata that a person has. The fact that we're not close to the Eibishter, the fact we're not giving nachas ruach to the Eibishter. That's what gives him nachas. The Gemara says in Brachas, Rav Chanina bar Papa Shual, the Rav Shmuel ben Nachman. He asked Rav Shmuel ben Nachman, Mayu d'chsiv, what's the pshat in the pasuk? Vani sfilosi lecho Hashem eis rotzon. I daven to you Hashem in the special time which is called eis rotzon. It's a time in Shemayim where the Eibishter listens. It's eis rotzon. What's pshat eis rotzon? Is there certain times? Omaloi, he answered him, Sha'arei tefillah, pa'omim psuchim, pa'omim nu'ulim. You know there are certain zmanim called eis rotzon, Rav the Ravin, by Sudish Lishis, a gewaldige eis rotzon in Shemayim. But it's not always open. Aval sha'arei tshuva, La'oilam psuchim. The sha'arei tshuva are always open. And no matter what a person has done in his life, no matter how far he's gone, Gidoi l'tshuva shemagas ad kisei hakovod. Tshuva is so great that it goes all the way up to the Eibishter direct line. Shenemar, Shuva Yisroel ad Havaya lekecho. You can come all the way back, mamish biz Havaya. Like the Rav said before, you have to turn this situation to Havaya should become a lekecho. Like the Sfasemis also says something similar. It says, V'hafto es Hashem lekecho. You should be happy with the fact that the Eibishter is unser Gott. Also by Berich Samozim, we also say, Noiderach Hashem Elokeinu al Shechad Laveseinu Etzchem da Toiv Rechova, Baal Shetzem Etz Mitzrayim, Etzem Besavodim, Babrischa, V'Toiroscha, we say everything. And then we say Valakoil Hashem Elokeinu, and everything. We just said everything. You enumerated every single detail. What's Pshat Valakoil? The Pshat is that we thank Rebbeinu Shalom for all these details. But Valakoil, above everything else, is Hashem Elokeinu. The Eibishter is unser Gott. That's the greatest simcha that a Yid has. Boni matam Hashem Elokeichem, with the Eibishter's children. The Navi says in Amos, the Eibishter is calling Klal Yisroel and he says to them, Ahavti eschem Omer Hashem. I love you, my kinderlach. You should only know how much I love you. As we say in the Tefillah V'ad Moisoi Techak Eloi Im Yoshu Miyat Tekabloi. The Eibishter waits until the last moment, until the last breath. We should do tshuva. So I want to read you a story in the Medrash of Menashe Melech. Menashe Melech, who was known, he was a Rasha. Hem Etzelem Behechel. He built a tzelem that was so huge, so big, that it took 1,000 people to carry it. Where was he carrying it to? The Beis Hamikdash. And the tzelem was built in such a way that no matter where you looked at it, from which side, which angle, you saw this Avodah Zorah, this Getchke, and he brought it into the Beis Hamikdash. Not only that, but he abused the Yiddish kinderlach. He forced labored. They had to schlep. That took 1,000 people to lift this thing, and 1,000 people would die every single day. They would buckle underneath this masa. So the Medrash says, Mordechai Medrash. Brings the pasuk in Divrei Hayomim. V'daber Hashem Menashe v'lamoy. The Eibusha spoke to Menashe and to Klal Yisroel. V'lo hikshivu. They didn't listen to him. V'yovei aleim Hashem esorei atzova shel melech Ashur. He brought the army of the Melech of Ashur. V'yilkedus Menashe b'choichim. They caught Menashe and they put him into chains. Zokte Medrash Omar Rab Levi Bar Chisa. Osuloi mulo shel nechoishes. They brought this tremendous pot. Whoever's been to Uman in the kitchen knows what I'm talking about. They have these humongous pots that takes 3 steps to walk up, and you have to reach up lasers tepelach. So they brought a big pot of nechoishes. Voyimasikim ha'ur mitachtov. And they lit a fire underneath it. And they put him inside, versteht sich. And as soon as the water started heating up, at Rongam Kvitchen, he started screaming, Tzelem plan, de avoide zore, yen avoide zore, Shizvani, save me. Kivim sherosh shaloi hilu klum, he saw us a help nish. All avoide zore is an go nisht. Omar, he said, listen to this. Zachayra yisi, shoya abba makro yisi. I remember when I was a kid, my tate, Chizkiyo HaMelech, who was a tzaddik, he learned with me in Parshas Veschanon, steht Batzar lecho tzeucha kol advorim me'ele b'achris hayomim. Batzar lecho, when you'll be in a tight spot, because of your averis, the Eibush is punishing you. Vashevo yisol levavecha, you will do tshuva. V'shavta ad avaya lekecha. Kikeu racham Hashem lekecha. This is what he was screaming out, jumping in the pot. Ano tzavach lei. I'm going to scream to this Rebbeinu Shalom, the one my father taught me about. In honor, if he's going to answer me, Otav, they are good. V'lo honor, but if he's not going to answer me, ha'kula chadohi. All the gods kaviyachul are all the same. Kol ha'payah shovin. So all is all bezach. Nishda can go, nishda can. I don't want to say it out of my mouth. Imagine the chutzpah. As over the way the Zohar, hem et tzelem b'heichel, and finally, reality is catching up with him. And Shreit, after screaming to all the getchkes, he says, B'nai Shalom, if you save me, I know you're okay. But if not, sagt der Medrash ba'oisa sho omdu malachi ashoris. V'sosmu kol achaloinoi shel ma'ilo. The malachim closed all the doors and all the gates and all the windows. V'amul von Rebbeinu olamim, Rebbeinu shel olam. Adam shehem et tzelem beheichel. At the makabel b'tshuva. How can you be makabel someone like this? He's a Rosh Merusha. He's a Rotzeach. He killed so many Yidden. He brought a tzelem into the Beis Hamikdash. How can you forgive him? Don't forgive him. If I had not makabel this guy, that I'm closing the doors for all Bala Tshuva. What did the Eibush do? He made a tunnel. He dug him a tunnel from underneath the Kisei HaKavod. Mokoim she'ein malach yochel lishloit. In a place where a malach has no entry. And that's how Menashe did tshuva. So how did the Eibush to get him out of this boiling pot? Sagt der Medrash weiter. Vayishevu Yerushalayim lemalchusoi ubameh hishivoi. How did he get him back? Sagt der Shmuel in the name of Rab Acha, beruach hishivoi. The Eibush created a tremendous wind. It blew him out of the pot and took him back to Yerushalayim. That's the koich of tshuva. Even a person like Menashe, was a given mamish oived avodah zorah hem etzelem behechel aritzeach. The Eibush was makabel his tshuva. Yom Kippur we say in the tefillas, Anu malei avoh v'yatom olei rachamim. We're full of averis and you're full of rachmim. Hat der Heilige Berditchevi gesagt, Rebbeinu shel olam, Ich lebe Yitzchak mit der kleinen Menschele. Even if I'm full, how full can I be? Aber dir, Rebbeinu Shalom, bist doch ein Seuf. Und ein Seuf, Rachamim. Und was ist ein bisschen Averis? So that's the inyan of tshuva. Let's touch the inyan of tefillah. Menashe's father was Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Chizkiyahu HaMelech so beruach HaKodesh that he's going to have a son like Menashe. So he never wanted to get married. For a good reason. Shteit in Melachim. It's also brought down in Yeshaya Novi. In those days, Yeshaya ben Amoitz was the Novi. The Eibusha sent the Novi to him. Vayomim mehem cholech Chizkiyahu lomus. Shteit in Novi. Chizkiyahu got very, very sick. He was deathly sick. Vayovoy elav Yeshayahu ben Amoitz HaNovi. Yeshaya Novi came to him. Vayomer elav koyomar Hashem. The Eibusha told me to tell you, Tzav lebeischa. Say goodbye to your family. Write your tzavor. Ki meis ato v'lo tichya. You're going to die. You're not going to live. So the Gemara already speaks about this conversation that was going back and forth. He said to him, why? He said, because you don't want to have children. So I said, but I don't want to have children. You know why I don't want to have children? Because I see Baruch HaKodesh that my son's going to be a Rosh. He said to Behana, Kafshed Rachmana Lomalach. Was kriegst du in Eibus's Geschäften? You don't belong there. That's his business. You have a tzivui to have children. That's your obligation. What the Eibus will do, that's his inyan. So he said to him, he turned around to Yeshaya Novi and said, let me marry your daughter. And maybe in your schus and my schus together, we'll have a good child. So Yeshaya Novi said to him, I'm sorry, but it's too late. Too late. Sagt the Gemara Moire di Keloshen. He turned around to Yeshaya Novi and he said to him, Ben Amoitz. It's like someone said to me, Ben David. You finish what you had to say? Kaleni v'yoscha. Finish what you got to say? But say. I'm not interested in what you have to say. Kach mekublani mebeis avi abo. I have a tzavor from my Zayde. David HaMelech alav hashalom. Afilu cherev chado menachas al tzavor shel Adam. Al yisyayish min arachamim. Steht weiter in Novi, Vayase vespone velakir. Vayispal el Hashem leimor. He turned around to the kir, sagt the Gemara Mekiras liboy. He was screaming from the depth of his heart. He said, Rebbeinu Shalom have rachmanis. I want to be mesaken. On Hashem zechonas asher salachti lefonecha be'emes. Ubelev of Sholem. Remember all the good deeds that I've done. V'atoy benecho sisi. Vayev Chizkiyahu b'chi godoil. He started crying hysterically. Dr. Novi weiter. Yeshaya Novi was not out of the gate yet. He was on his way out. Idvar Hashem hoya elav lemor. And the Eibishter came back with another nevuah and said to him, Shuv amart al Chizkiyahu negid ami koyomar Hashem alekei David avicho. Shomati es tfilosecha. I have heard your tfilis. Ra'isi es dimosecha. I saw your tears. Hineni roifelach. I will heal you. B'yom hashlishi tal beis Hashem. In 3 days you go back to the Beis Hamikdash. V'yisafti al yimecha chomesh es shana. You will live another 15 years and taka kachava. And who did he marry? He married Yeshaya Novi's daughter. And Menashe came out, unfortunately. But Menashe did tshuva. Maybe it's like the inyan of Bal tshuva is shleitach in the Gemara, says Gresa via tzadik. Shados mei in the Gemara. What is tefillah? Tefillah is connecting to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Rachmana libaboy. The Eibishter one's heart. To say the words like a puppet is garnished. You can daven all day long, it's made garnished. We say in Kriya Shema every day, Ule'ovdoi b'chol levavchem. The avodah that we do, is avodah shebelev, zok the Gemara zu tefillah. Tefillah has to be with your whole heart. You're standing for the Melech Malchei Amlochim, speaking to the Rebbeinu Shalom directly. Ponim el ponim. We have the schus to say Baruch Ato. He's talking Noichach, Mamish Noichach B'nei Hashem. By Chana, when she was crying for children, she was davening, Ve'achshevei Eli Shikoira, Eli thought she was shikr. He said to her, what's with you? What are you doing? So she said, Ve'eshpoich nafshi lifnei Hashem. I poured my nefesh out for the Eibishter. I'm not drunk. I'm davening to the Eibishter. Ishtapchus hanefesh. David HaMelech says, Va'ani tfilo. He was one shtik tfilo. David HaMelech was tfilo his whole life. Ve'lekima haladova, b'Hashem haladova, b'Havaya haladova. Whether it's Elekim midas hadin, or whether it's Havaya midas harachmim, he was always singing to the Rebbeinu Shalom in every situation. Das is tefillah. Tefillah lo'ani kiyato, if everyone knows that song, right? Lifnei Hashem yishpoich sichoi. Say yishpoich sichoi. You pour out what's in your heart. You just talk. You talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Like Reb Nachman of Breslev, the Einikel from Baal Shem Tov. He says we have to talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom in our own words. Connect. Feel it. Yitzchak Rosa said, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basode. He went out to speak his heart out to the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Eis Erev. Brought down in Shulchan Aruch, the Gemara from Brochus, Ein oimim lispalel elam etach koi v'drosh. With a seriousness, you come into a shul, there's the Beis HaMelech, V'shachanti b'soicham, V'osel migdash v'shachanti b'soicham. The Eibush says, build me a little bias where I can come and visit you. I want to listen to your tefillas. Every shul is a migdash ma'at. A kleine b'sa migdashul. It says in Sforim that every shul has a kedusha of Eretz Yisroel. So those who can't go for Sukkot Eretz Yisroel, I recommend you sit in Besmedish a ganzen Tag. You'll be in Eretz Yisroel. You're not going to see the Arabs there, but there's Hashem. Yaakov Avinu said, "Man noira hamokam hazeh." Ein zekim beis elikim. Beis elikim is a mokim noira. That's why Yerushalayim was called Yerushalayim, Yira Sholem. Every year they came to Yerushalayim, had the gewaldige Yira Seroimemus of the Eibishter. Just like the Havdal Elef $5, if you walk in, you have an appointment in the White House. You can't sleep at night before. Your heart is pumping. You walk in through the gates, and the guards are standing there. Imagine what it was like in the Beis Hamikdash. Ahidas Rankim Beis Hamikdash was Oyem v'Noira, especially in Yom Kippur, the Avodah the Kohen in Beis Hamikdash. There were five times that he changed his clothing, and between every time there was a Tvilah and there was Kiddush Yadayim Raglaim twice, until he got into the base, the Kodesh Kodeshim with the Ketores. Noira, the Avodah that we say on Yom Kippur, the Avodah Kohen Gadol, that's only to remind us that we should long for that again. We should be mispalo for that again. The Kedusha Beis HaKnesses, unfortunately, the Tzareinu Arav, in the Goliath, and in some places in Eretz Yisrael, all the Baruch Hashem in Eretz Yisrael, it's much, much different. You'll never hear a cell phone ring in a shul in Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't exist. You never see someone talking on the phone in Beis Medrash. Unfortunately, here in America, you walk into a shul, you see people in the middle of davening texting. In the middle of davening, sitting, playing with I saw a guy playing games in the middle of Shemona Esrei Nebuch. But it's mamish, it's unbelievable. There's a famous letter from the Heilige Baal HaTanya and the Igrois, which is printed in the Sefer HaTanya. That's a pachad noira. I can't repeat every word because it's frightening. But basically what he's saying is that a person has the schus to come in shul where the Eibishter says, I want to come spend time with you. I want to listen to your tefillas. So instead of coming into shul with that mindset, unfortunately not everyone understands that, and this is Chil Hashem Shein Kedugmosoi. The Heilige Baal HaTanya sagt that the Eibishter says, I'm coming to you to listen to what you have to daven. V'mesaber b'tzrochav, and someone who talks shtusim, his own geschäften. At this time of davening, Mara ba'atzmo, he shows she'ein chofetz lizboine v'liras begilik kvoid malchusay. He's not interested. The Melech came in, couldn't care less. V'nasa merkova tamei l'ksila elyoin. Pachad noire. Just to get to the Melech, normally is a ganze procedure. And here the Melech comes to see you, and you don't even pay attention to it. He brings a Lashon HaZoyar that's mamish frightening. The anig kolono betikuna ilo. A person who speaks in Beis HaMedrash while davening, he's mamish bevayish kvoid shamayim. Ve'ach zei pirudo. He shows that Eibush is not here. He's mamish mafrid ben der Bnei Shloim and Klal Yisrael. Ve'les lei chulke belekod Yisrael Rachmana litzlan. He doesn't have a chelik in Klal Yisrael. Doesn't have a chelik in the Eibush. Al kein sagt der Balatanya, the heilige Balatanya, Shlichu Sayid, Rabbi Seinu Zal Koavidna. I'm doing the Shlichus of Chazal. Lig zoi gzeire, shavele kol nefesh. I'm goizer gzeire, which goes for every single individual. Sheloi lasuach sicha betela, not to speak divrei chulin, misheyaschel ashliach tzibur lehispal al atfila, from the moment the Baal Tefillah starts davening, ad gemar Kaddish Basra, until the last Kaddish, Shachris, Arvis, V'mincha. And he goes on and he says even further, more than that. V'oivr al zeh bezodoin. Someone is over on this bemezid, he's a cherem. Yeshev ala oretz, he should sit down on the floor like a person who's in cherem. V'yevakesh mishloish anoshim she'atiru loi nidui shelemalo. They should be matir his cherem mishamayim. So mamish oyem v'noira. There's another little thing that I saw from Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. He says that im tire beis hakneses chorav. If you ever see a beis hamedrash, a beis hakneses that was destroyed, or you see goyim or evil people are living there now, da you should know the reason this happened. Sheisol hoyedorim boy derech bezoyin. The Yidden who were there before were mevaza the kedushas beis hakneses, and that's why it was chorav. Chman al Islam. So that's the union of tefillah. Last year, I don't know if you people remember, I think it was last summer, there was a fire in Bnei Brak where 6 Sifrei Torah, Rachmana litzlan, were burned, and it was a big levaya. Tens of thousands of people came in Bnei Brak. And Rav Ozner Shlita, who was, I think he's either close to 100 or just about 100 years old, he was one of the maspidim. And he said the only reason why something like this can happen is because we are mezalzel in kedushas beis hakneses, Rachmana litzlan. After the 67 war, we call the 6-day war, l'chaim everyone. There's no mashka, I have to say l'chaim on water. Is it a real Beis Chabad here? After the 67 war, there was a Shabbaton for fresh Balachuvas who were Makabel Torah mitzvahs. And they had this festive meal, the whole Shabbos, Sukkot, Matzav. At the end of the meal, they were serving fruits. And one of the Rabbanim, one of the Mashpiyim, walked by one of the tables, and he sees a Balchuva, chapt a shtickle watermelon. He's like, Boach, Ata Hashem, Elokei Yidum Belech, Oil B'Shahak, Oil Niyah B'Dvorei. He says, Amen. He walks over to me and says, you know, it's a beautiful bracha that you said, but it's not the right bracha. He says, I say Shahak Oil Niyah B'Dvorei. He says, but it's not the right bracha. He says, but I say Shahak Oil Niyah B'Dvorei. He says, what's the pshat? He says, I'll tell you. I just came back from the Milchama. I was sitting in the tank with 2 of my friends, and suddenly we realized we're surrounded by a bunch of Syrian tanks. And this was it was over. There was nothing, there's no way out of this. Surrounded from all the Seiten. So one of them screams out and says, does anybody know anything in Lashon HaKodesh? And I say to say a Yiddish word. So one guy screams out and says, Bo Echad Hashem Elokeinu Shehakal Ni B'Dvorei, and boom, one tank goes out. So they all start screaming, Bo Echad Hashem Elokeinu Shehakal Ni B'Dvorei, boom, another tank. They all scream again, they got rid of all of them and they were saved. He says if the Shehakal works for a tank, it doesn't work for watermelon. But the pshat is that he said it with his whole heart. He said the bracha of his daf to sein. I once heard from one of the Magidim, I don't remember the name of who he repeated it, but he said, one of the Gdoilim, he said that to say the Brichas HaShiyotzar, the Kavona, every time, is the biggest gula to never need a doctor. And I know people taka who are makbid every time they say HaShiyotzar, every word, every syllable, every nuance. It says in Parashas Eikev, V'ato Yisroel mo Hashem Elokecha shoel mi'imach. What does the Eibush ask from you? Sagt the Gemara, Al tikre mo elo meyo. What is the meyo? The meyo brachas that we say every day. There's a chiyuv to thank Hashem at least 100 times a day. And when we say a bracha, we're saying, Baruch ato, Geloi bistu, Hashem, Elokeinu, our God, Melech ha'olam, whatever it is. Shakal ni b'dvoroi, Shelo yasani goy. They say Meir Pamishlana used to dance every morning. He was a very beautiful big man. And vielleicht tanzen wir gesagt, Shelo yasani goy. So to imagine if I was a goy, I was going to a grobe goy. Like this, but a groise sheine yid. To say brachas with simcha, really to feel it, is gewaldig. It's the connection to the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's the minimum that we can do. The Sefer HaChinuch brings in the mitzvah of Kibbud Av V'Eim that the shoyresh mitzvah of Kibbud Av V'Eim is Hakoras HaToiv. Hakoras HaToiv. To say thank you to someone who has done something for you. Who does more for us than the Rebbeinu Shalom himself? Every breath. We wake up in the morning, the first thing we say is, Moidan Nidafonecho. I thank you, Rebbeinu Shalom, Melech Chai V'Kayam. Shechzarto b'nishmosi b'chemlo. He had Rachmanis, he gave me back my neshama. I have another day to live. I have another day to do mitzvahs. They say the Goan, before he was passing away, he was crying. They asked him, what's Vainstal? You did the whole life. You were oisik b'toyre mitzvahs. They said, yes, but once I pass, I can't become mitzvahs anymore. I can't learn Torah anymore. It's over. Was mechabt rein auf der Welt, ist reingechabt. Am zu yatzarti li et hilasi yisaperu. I've created this nation to say my praise, to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom. As David HaMelech said, Koil hanishomo tahalil ko. After 70 years, he was Messiah to Hilim, saying, Koil hanishomo, with every neshima, every breath, I owe you thanks. I guess that's why we say 3 times a day in Shemona Esrei, Moidem anachnu loch, we thank you, Rebbeinu Shalom, chayenu, on our life, v'nishmoseinu, v'nisecha shebechol yom imonu, the nisim that you do with us every day. V'nifloisecha v'toivosecha, your wonders and your kindness, shebechol eis, erev avoike v'tzoroim. To stop and be mizboinen on these words, the third thing we touch on is tzedakah. You know the famous saying, tzedakah tasel mimoves. A couple interessante Gemaras, short but to the point. Rav Asi says, the Gemara is in Bava Basra, Daf Tes. Shkula tzedakah keneged kol ha-mitzvos. Mordik. Rabbi Loza says, with manche b'es hamikdash hayekayim, when we had the b'es hamikdash, Adam shoykl shikloi, he gave a shekel, gave you tzedakah b'es hamikdash, and mischapeloi. Ach, shav she'ein b'es hamikdash, was tut men? If oisim tzedakah, mutav. If you do tzedakah, it's gewaldig. V'im la'av, very scary. Boim oivdike chavim, v'noitlim b'zroya. Comes the IRS, chaz v'sholem, or a court case, or whatever it may be, the goyim come and they take your money b'koyach, if you don't give tzedakah. The Gemara continues over there and says, Om Rav Yitzchak, kal hanoisen pruta la'ani, and this is very important. When you give tzedakah, mizborach b'sheish brachas. You get 6 brachas. Aber wenn man feisei bedvorim, man sagt a good word for the man. The guy comes to your door and he's schlepping around the whole day, or whole week, a whole month, who knows how long. You say something nice to him, you give him a smile. You're going to give him the money anyway. So if you give him a smile, Mizborach biyud alle brachas. You get 11 brachas. Moiridik. Tzedakah is an interesting thing. If a person gives tzedakah, which will shiur b'ni, he's making a condition. So the Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm giving tzedakah, I want my son to live. Obviously he has a son with a problem. Hadez et tzaddik gomer, zok the Gemara. The Chafetz Chaim had a different take on it. He said L'chayra was Rosh Tevis. He said because he gave tzedakah one time, is that tzaddik gomer? He said L'chayra was Rosh Tevis in the Gemara, it's tzaddik gimel. Tzedakah gemura. Oich gut. Tzedakah gemura. The famous Gemara in Tainus, Rabbi Yochanan met his nephew, Rish Lakish's son. His father wasn't alive anymore. And he said to him, Psoik li psukach, what did you learn today in Cheder? He said, I learned in Cheder today, Asa to Asa. So he asked his uncle, what's Pshat Asa to Asa? Was it Taich? What is the double Lashon Asa to Asa? He said, Asa. He said, Asa to Asa. He gesagt, Asa b'shvil shetis asher. Give Maisa so you should become rich. So he asked him, are you allowed to test the Eibishter? You know, what's going on here? You're testing the Eibishter, you're going to give Bishver. And if you're not, nicht. So he said, yeah, it says in the Pasuk, it's the only place in the Torah where the Eibishter says, I beg you to test me. B'chanuni no bezois. Test me with Meiser, and you'll see if it's going to work or not. In England, over 100 years ago, there was a very famous Yid, an Anglo-Saxon Yid. His name was Sir Moses Montefiore. He was very close with the Queen. He held very high office in England, in the English government. He was once walking in the street and he approached him and said to him, Rab Moshe, what are you worth? He looks at him, starts thinking for a couple of seconds, and he says, throws out a number. The guy looks at him and says, what? That's all you're worth? They say you're worth millions and millions of dollars. He says, you asked me how much I'm worth, not how much I owe, how much I own. I made a quick calculation of the tzedakahs that I gave this year. That's what I'm worth. The rest of the money is stam geld. Ich bin wert, the money I gave tzedakah. That's enough tzedakah. One of the biggest problems we have in life is that the Yetzer Hara tells us, will es einreden, that you've tried so many times. You've been through this road so many times. So many Elul, so many Rosh Hashanahs, Yom Kippur, the next day, sometimes it lasts a week or two, but then it's over. Yetzer Hara sagt, ladach up. Throws us into Yush. He tries to knock us down and einreden that we're really not worth. Garnish, Baba Mises. That is the biggest problem. And that is the biggest lie. Because every neshama is a chelik l'kaim imal mamish. The Alter Rebbe talks in the Sefer HaBeinenim. We say in the morning, V'ata nefachta bi. Neshama shenesata bi tohoiroi. V'ata v'rosata yitzarta. V'ata nefachta bi. You blew my neshama into me. Like it says by Adam Rishon, V'yipach ba'apav nishmas chaim. The Eibishter blew into him a ruach chaim. Like the Zohar HaKodesh says, man the nofach mitoiche midelei. When a person blows, you're blowing your internal, your inside, your kishkis. So kavyochel, when the Eibishter blew a neshama into us, we have a chelik elokayim mal mamish within us. As the Baal Shem Tov said, that even the biggest Rasha, if he would know how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves him, he would plot from Agus Nefesh that it's a gelost einreden von die Yetzer Hara ad kedei kach. The Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva that a person that was about Tshuva, a person that does Tshuva, emesh hoya sonu. Yesterday, he was despised in Shemayim. Meshukitz, meruchek, v'toi evo, stark shver l'shoynes. He was disgusting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu couldn't look at him. V'hayoim, the minute he does tshuva, the minute he turns around and starts walking the other direction, he's ohuv, v'nechmod, koroiv, v'yedid. We are all b'nei Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Reb Tzadok says we have it in our genes, in our DNA. Yisrael af pishachota, Yisrael. There's no way in the world the biggest Russia can never get away from himself, can never get away from his neshama. Because deep inside, we're all connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. We say, Yontev ata b'chartonu mikol ha'amim. The Eibush has chosen us from amongst all the nations. Ahavta yisonu, you love us, v'ratzisa banu, you wanted us, dafka us. And that's what we have to remember at all times. We are chelik elokei mimal, and there's nothing that can separate us from the Eibush. Famous story told about Reb Zusha was traveling in one of his travels with horse and buggy in the olden days. And suddenly they see on the road a goyish wagon driver with a big pile of hay which was flipped over. He sees Reb Zusha driving by and he says, stop, help me. Looks at him and says, help you what? He says, help me put the wagon back up. He says, ich kann nicht. So the guy says to him, die kennst ja, die willst nicht. So Reb Zusha said that was the lesson that he learned from the guy. Because everything we hear and everything we see, essentially, are messages from the Rebbeinu Shalom. He lived by hashgacha pratis. So the guy said to him, yes, you can. And I have a feeling that the speechwriter for the president in the White House, when he had the slogan, yes, we can, I think it was Sayidel at the Maisef from Reb Zusha, and he threw it in there. So I say also, yes, we can. We can change ourselves. Yes, we can change our surroundings. Yes, we can change our communities. Yes, we can change our shuls. Yes, we can change our davening with more kavona, with simcha. Yes, we can change our relationship to the Rebbeinu Shalom with more betochen, more amunah, more trust in Hashem. Yes, we can change our ben adam l'chaveiroi, to feel for one another, to care for one another, to greet everyone b'seif upon him yofos. As the Gemara says, L'olam have yagdim shalom l'chol odam. Always say hello first. Afilu l'nochri bashuk, even a goy. And yes, we can daven for our friends who need yeshuas, whether it's shidduchim, whether it's nachas from the children, whether it's gesund, whether it's panosa. Kalam spal about chaveiroi v'hu tzorach lo yiseh dover. If we daven for someone else who needs a yeshua, and really daven for them, hu nenet chila. We will be answered first. Yes, we can be Mekadesh Shem Shemayim in every way, in every step, in everything we do, in the way we talk, in the way we walk, in the way we relate to other people, the way we drive. Yes, we can bring the Geula Shleima, and yes, we can bring Mashiach now. A Gemach Simatov with everyone.